Christopher Landon, the director of Scream 7, and you're watching Craven Something Scary.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, visitors, subscribers, patrons, and my Cravenites. Welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Well, guys, tonight is a special night. I am so excited to talk to my guests this evening, and thank you all for being here. I want to say a real quick hello to the chat. I see you all here. Great to see you. And I want to say welcome. Get ready for a great time with our amazing guest tonight, John Hyams. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And just want to let you know, of course, always you can submit your questions, comments at any time as we're just discussing our topics tonight. And we'll get to as many as possible. However, as you guys know, we're not able to get to everyone's question because there's just not enough time and volume, and you guys get that. However, if you do have a burning question for John tonight that you really want answered, you can send in a super chat and it will move to the front of the line. I will make sure that we get that question or comment addressed. Okay. That's an option for you if you decide to do so. All right. Now, having said all of that, I wanted to just for a moment introduce my guest, John. John Hyams is an outstanding director. He has done both television and film, and so for you, and by the way, I'm watching the Chucky. I'm finally watching the Chucky series. I just finished season one, and actually, John has directed a couple of episodes of the Chucky series. And we can even, maybe we'll have time to get to that. But you also know his work as a director and producer and even a writer of Z Nation back on the Sci Fi Network. And then on Netflix, you guys may know him also there from as the show creator, writer, executive producer. Also directed a couple of episodes in the series, I believe, was Black Summer, and that was also out there on Netflix. Very cool. And the two films, though, feature films that we're going to focus tonight on for the majority of our time are going to be a film called Alone, which is outstanding. If you have not seen it, it's a must watch. I might even do a watch party here for it. As the director and editor of that film, we're going to talk about that. And of course, you guys know the one I've been talking about a lot. We did a watch party. I love it. Seen it many times. Kevin Williamson's Sick, and he's the director of the film. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest tonight, Mr. John Hyams. John, welcome.
Good to talk to you, Stephen.
Yes, you too. It's a real pleasure. We've been looking forward to this and very excited to get your insight and just to learn so much more about these great films from your perspective. And truly, it's going to be great. And I have to say, before we even begin, I recently had Eliza Coleman as a guest here on the channel. Yes. And she was absolutely phenomenal and really unpacked a lot from the stunt perspective as the stunt coordinator. But we were emailing each other just this past week again. And I told her you were coming on, and she said to tell you that she gives you her best and she hopes that you both can work together again. And I told her I would pass the message.
Oh, I certainly hope we get to do that. And because she is fantastic at what she does. I had a great experience working with Eliza. She is just, one of the, just a true pro and was fantastic. And for a movie like Sick, you may not realize just how many challenging stunts. Some movies are
Mhm.
heavy in fight choreography, or some are heavy in cars or something like that. Sick, for a relatively small movie, had kind of ran the gauntlet of stunts, and a lot of stunts that were really, really dangerous in terms of high falls and full
Yeah.
burns and things like that. Not to
Yes.
mention all the kind of down and dirty fight choreography. So she was awesome. I love working with her. She's a great person.
Oh, man, the time I spent with her was just wonderful, and I could just tell the way, just the way her personality and how she opened up and shared so much. I said, "Oh my gosh," I could see why she was the right choice. Absolutely, fantastic.
We were really lucky to have her, and so much. If you enjoyed the movie, she was a large part of what you enjoyed there. So her and
Wonderful.
her team, and her,
Mhm.
as a head of a department, your job is to put together a great team, and her team was amazing. And so she had my complete trust, and from the get go. And like I said, I forgot we also did like water stuff on top of all that, which was
That's
very, very,
yeah.
very complicated as well.
Yes, indeed, and I can't wait to dig into some of this with you here in a second as well, because it's so much stuff in Sick that I just really enjoyed. But now I have to do this, and you probably asked this a million times, but bear with me, because this is a horror channel, as you know. Craving something scary, it's all horror, and Scream is a big part of this of my my movie history, the channel history. But I do have to ask you, what is your favorite scary movie, if you have one?
Well, it's kind of interesting because it's a great question. And I think, like, your favorite scary movie, or maybe put a different way, what was
Mhm.
the scariest movie you ever
Sure.
saw, the most scared you ever were? And so much of that has to do with like what age you were when you
Mhm.
saw it, what left an indelible mark on you.
Yes.
And there are a number of movies that left a huge mark on me. That And funny enough, when I was a kid, which was kind of the beginning of the slasher craze, and I
Mhm.
saw all of them, from Halloween, Friday the 13th, I saw all those movies, and I was really, at the time, really obsessed with makeup effects, and
Mhm.
and great kind of makeup special effects work, whether it was from Rick Baker and Tom Savini and all these people who were
Yes.
doing that stuff. So I saw it all. Funny enough, though, the movie that actually scared me the most, and has to do with the age I was very young, and I was in the movie theater. The first Ridley Scott's Alien in the theater
Ooh.
is really actually the most scared I've ever been in a movie. And to this day, it's one of my top three favorite movies of all time for sure. And it's the
Nice.
kind of movie that made me, want to make films. I mean, there was a lot of things that made me want to make films, but Alien is still, to me, one
Mhm.
of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And a lot of people don't think of it as a horror movie necessarily, because you think of it as science fiction, or you think of it
Mhm.
as other. And then when the subsequent sequels were kind of in the action genre, and
Mhm.
it's a monster movie, it's all kinds of things. But seeing that movie in the movie theater at the time, I just don't ever remember seeing anything that created that level of tension. Um, that a kind of visceral tension that was almost a physical reaction to seeing the movie and seeing if you could actually make it through to the end. And in fact, my older brother
Yeah.
ran out of the theater in
Oh,
the middle of the
wow.
movie when the chest bursting thing happened.
Mhm.
Uh, he was out of there, and it was just me and my my friend, and we were, like I say, we were like 9 years old, and hanging on for dear life to watch this movie and see if we could
Wow.
make it through. So there's
Yeah.
there's many horror movies that I love, and there's been many great ones, but the one that affected me the most is maybe not even most closely associated with the genre, but for me, that was a powerful experience.
Oh, yes. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. In fact,
Sure.
it's funny. I just literally got a few days ago, excuse me, I got a complete Aliens Blu-ray thing with all the movies, just all of them together. I was like, I just got
Yeah.
that the other day. So that's pretty cool.
And I still think, some people disagree with me, but I still think the first one is the greatest.
It's hard to beat that. I mean, Alien 2, another amazing film, but our aliens, but I don't disagree with you. Yeah, what a groundbreaking film that was. My gosh.
Well, it really is, because I think in order to be scared, you have to believe in the stakes that are being presented to you, and you have to believe in the environment, in the world. And even though that was this exotic environments, people on a spaceship, it's a very like kind of far out concept, not by today's standards, because we've seen so many movies have been influenced by Alien. There's so many movies now. It's almost a genre of like people on a ship and then something happens. But that was really the first one. And
Yeah,
so to do a haunted house monster movie on a spaceship, millions of miles from Earth, and somehow make it realistic and believable is, I think, really a testament to the brilliance of Ridley Scott and his team.
yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Now I have to know, and I know you kind of gave us a little sneak peek there, maybe of the how things started, but I'm always fascinated to find out, as an artist that you are, writer, director, all of these things, and I would love to know, with your amazing body of work that you've done, could you take us back to when it did really begin? Like when the moment came where I want to make films. Like I know I'm going to be a director. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to give it a go in Hollywood, right? In the business. How did that all start for you? Would love to hear that story.
Well, it was a little bit of a roundabout route. The truth is, I grew up on movie sets. My dad is a director, and my brother and I, my brothers, I have two brothers, but we grew up on movie sets, and
Okay.
it was the whole craft of filmmaking was something that fascinated us, and we loved it, and were obsessed with it from a very, very young age. So we spent so much of our childhood being on the set and watching how they were made,
Okay.
and at the same time, you're also watching movies, so we're developing our own appreciation of the films themselves, but we're also getting a real, front row seat to the process of how they're made. Now that being said, I always had this desire to be a part of it. But when we were kids, we used to make little movies together. Back then, they were Super 8 movies. But my older brother, he was the one with the camera. So my older brother, he was the director. He, from the get-go, he had the camera, he was the director. And so I would like be in the movies, and the movies were always pretty much just like extended action scenes that we would, try to construct. So I couldn't actually say that I was going to be a director, because you can't have two directors in the house, So I used to say, I was good at drawing, that was my thing. So I decided I wanted to be a makeup artist. I wanted to do makeup effects. And so I was really interested in, like I say, Dick Smith and Rick Baker and all of the craft of that. As time went on, eventually that, my drawing and painting, that was something I started to pursue very seriously. And then I went to art school for that and studied sculpture and painting. And then I started working for artists and working in fabrication, and then ultimately making my own work and selling my work. So
wow, that's awesome.
at that point, I kind of had this whole other career that lasted, after through college and another good 10 years after of being in the studio arts world. All the while always knowing that I love movies and one day I'd like to someday work my way over there. But I had this other passion that I'd been pursuing and was now what was, how I was making my living. And then at a certain point, I started dabbling in making films with my friends, just things I would pay for myself, short movies, and then ultimately even like a feature that we made over a long period of time. And then it became very clear to me that I couldn't do both and put all, equal amount of time. It was kind of an all or nothing thing. And so at that point, I decided I really wanted to make film. That's what I wanted to do. So I kind of closed up shop with the art career and started back at the bottom in filmmaking. And at that point, it was just a matter of writing a bunch of scripts that weren't very good and no one really would be very interested in them. But ultimately, from just knocking around and doing what people do, eventually I stumbled upon documentaries as my kind of entry point into filmmaking. And so I started making documentaries, which led me to then getting episodic TV work, which then led me to getting some feature work. So that's kind of, it was a bit of a roundabout journey.
That's awesome. Wow. Literally living the dream, right? Literally, like it was, would you say it was a dream come true since you were a kid, and to see it now as an adult, and very, very awesome career that you have, and looking back on it now, does it feel that way or no to you?
Well, I think it's, I think that everyone who does this is kind of following their dreams. You're following your dreams, your passions. But it's not really like, there's no destination. There's no kind of end game. You're always just pushing and hustling. And when you get to actually make a movie, when the money comes together and the actors sign on and you're actually there and you're making it, in that moment, you feel like, okay, this is the dream right here.
Yes.
And then you spend a lot of time working on it and then you finish it and you put it out in the world, and then you're out, and then until you're doing it again, you're out there hustling, trying to find a situation where that, all those elements will come together. Because when you make a few of these, you realize it's always feels like a bit of a minor miracle that they come together. So many things have to go the right way, for the money to come through and all those things.
Yes.
So it certainly is a passion and a dream to be involved in this industry. I love it and wouldn't want to be doing anything else. And it is when you actually are, on set and you're working with actors and you're working with your collaborators. It's really the most fun thing I could imagine doing, and you just, when you're done doing one, you just want to get back out there and do it again.
I can only imagine. That's so cool. Real quick, Sarah Campbell is coming in, a real friend of the channel and our moderating tonight. Sarah with a $10 super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel, Sarah, as always. You're awesome. She says, thank you for coming to speak to us tonight. I just wanted to say that the first season of Black Summer is hands down one of the best seasons of any zombie show. The characters are written so perfectly.
Oh, well, thank you, Sarah. That's wonderful to hear. The experience of making Black Summer is definitely one of the highlights of my career. It was in many ways probably the most creative freedom I've ever experienced. Netflix was wonderful to work for. And that was something that my partner, Carl Schaefer, my partner on that show, Carl Schaefer, and we created that show, and I was able to kind of create that from scratch and be there, and there was something really exciting. I'd always been a feature film guy, but something about doing the long form of a series, but doing it at Netflix where we were kind of free to create the structure that we wanted, and the idea was almost to create a chapter book, and create a brand new structure, not like a film structure, which is kind of a 3-act standard structure. In the case of that series, we were able to build something on an 8-episode arc, and go down lots of different roads with it, and it was really inspiring. I loved working on that show, and it's a lot of fantastic people that we worked with together on that show, and we did 2 seasons that I really love and I'm very, very proud of. But
That's
thank you,
awesome.
Sarah. I appreciate you.
Yes, Sarah. Same. Thank you for your support. Great comments on something that's very, very cool. And there we go. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do, John, if we could merge into, instead of going from kind of chronological order, I'd like to start with Sick and then go back to Alone. Just kind of go backwards a little bit.
Sure.
So with Sick, let me just ask you, how did the opportunity come about to direct Sick? How did that opportunity begin for you?
Ben Fast, who works with he works with Kevin Williamson at his company, and we had a meeting. They had seen, Kevin and Ben had seen Alone, and they were fans of the movie, so they reached out. At first, really just have a general meeting, I think, and we started talking about things. And at the time, I was still working on Black Summer, but they had this script, so there was a finished script and everything when I came on board, and they said Kevin had written this script. Would you like to read it? They had a deal at Miramax, so it was kind of financed already, basically, regardless of cast. And I read it, and it was a real just treat and an incredible privilege I felt to read something by this guy Kevin, who had such a deep understanding of the architecture of this type of storytelling. And he's such a not only is he an expert himself, he's a real student of the genre. So this script, it was so much fun to read because there was setups and payoffs and nothing was in there by accident. And, it was this very tightly constructed thing. And I thought at the time, Kevin has his kind of brand and his sensibility that he's very famous for, from Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and all these things. And he has this real kind of pop sensibility, or as in he's very kind of connected to popular culture and young people. And whereas I have my own sensibilities that are, I would say, maybe a little more, maybe more like rooted in kind of a naturalistic aesthetic, let's say. And I thought this would be a fun experience to kind of try to merge his, Kevin's kind of story with my way of presenting the story, and that the two of us together would create something that might be, cool. And I'd like to see how that turns out. So that was it. They sent me the script, and I really thought it was fantastic. And when I realized it was about COVID, at first I thought that's kind of the last thing I feel like getting involved in. But when I read it, I loved his whole presentation of it, and the satire, but also the very kind of grounded horror and violence. And it was kind of saying something that wasn't political. It was much more of a kind of sociological statement. And I thought that was great. I thought that was exactly what the subject needed. So I was very excited to be involved.
Wonderful. It's a great movie. I did a watch party here on the channel where we all watch it together. You know, the audience that comes, and because I was like, you guys, everybody's, you got to check this thing out. You know, of course, I saw it when when it first came out. Excuse me, and I've seen it multiple times since then. And Denisha, who is a great supporter of the channel, has sent a $2 super chat. Thank you, Denisha. And she says, "Hey, Stephen, John, Sick was an amazing movie." Yes, it was.
Awesome. Thank you, Denisha. I appreciate
Yes.
that.
Thanks, Tanisha. We appreciate the super chat. And Jason, the nice one, also real quick, wanted to say, John, I want to say how much I enjoyed Six so much. The atmosphere, the incredible cast, the incredible intensity that started in the beginning and never let up. I was glued to my screen. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. You know, and I think, and all of that was really on the page and in Kevin's script. I think what I liked about it was that it started out, you know, it would presented itself as a slasher movie, but it was actually a thriller masquerading as a slasher movie, because it's actually kind of a low body count kind of movie.
True.
And you know, most slasher movies tend to be about people who are unsuspecting, and there's a killer out there, and one by one he's kind of knocking off unsuspecting people until the third act, where they're like, holy shit, there's a killer and we gotta, you know, and then then it becomes a chase. And this script, you know, was like, it was like a horror movie without the second act. It went straight from act one to act three, and it just went into this chase that just kept going on and on and on.
That's
And
true.
I thought that's kind of unique, you know. It's in that you are, you know, how are they gonna, and I was feeling this when I was reading the script, is how is he gonna make you know, keep this a horror movie when there's so few people involved, and it's just these killers or this killer chasing after these two young women. How are they gonna sustain this? And then what I realized was that, you know, there was just, you know, Kevin had a very clever concept and about how it all played out. And so that's kind of what attracted me to it, was just this extended, how it ultimately became a chase movie.
It really does. I mean, when it really turns on, the minute that we know there's something going on at the house, it really is. You're right. It's like the chase never ends until the end of the movie. It is
Right.
constantly, it just goes in different directions and different branches. And oh man, it's a, you know, Kevin's a brilliant writer, great with character development, all of those things. But at the same time, John, you deserve so much of the recognition and credit, if you will, because you know it's one thing to have a beautiful written story on paper, but to bring that visually to life, that's where your artistry and your, you know, creativity makes that, for when we're watching it, it makes it real for us, and we feel those emotions. And that's directly for you. That's on you, John, in my opinion. That's seriously, that is you making that happen, and bringing it to life. You're breathing life into those pages.
Well, I appreciate that. And as I said, it's, you know, film is a collaborative art, and there are, you know, my job is to put together a great team, you know, and so my director of photography, Yaron Levy, you know, and our camera operator, Federico Verardi, who, I mean, that movie is a lot of long takes and the cameras, you know, moving through the house. And he did beautiful work there. And
Yes.
our editor, Andrew Drazik, who, you know, created these seamless cuts and the pacing of the film, and our sound designers, you know, Neil Fazari and Samuel Nakash. I mean, the sound design is just as good as it gets. And I think those guys are as good as anyone in the whole industry. And Nima Fakrara, who is our composer. I mean, I think obviously the audio portion of of a horror movie. I mean, to me, all movies, but really a horror movie, it's kind of front
Yeah.
and center. What's happening with the sound and music, and how are they working
Mhm.
together? And Nima's score, I think, is really sublime and beautiful, and we slaved over those elements to get them right. But
Mhm.
there's we I was lucky enough to enjoy the talents of so many people, and I haven't even mentioned Beth Million, and of
Yes.
course Gideon Adlon and Mark Menchaca and Jane Addams. So this cast who was just they were wonderful, and really that's the key to the movie is our two leading women,
Mhm.
and finding people to inhabit those roles that made this, that kind of brought the audience along on the journey. And there was a lot of discussion about how to cast those roles. And to me, Gideon, who was really the first one,
Mhm.
we cast, and I felt from reading with her multiple times, and she had to go through a bit of a rigorous process to
Mhm.
to get the role, but she was exactly what who I wanted for the movie. I couldn't be prouder of what she did, because I
Mhm.
think she she takes a character who's actually, on the page, she's imperfect,
Yes.
as humans are, and she's not without guilt in certain situations,
Mhm.
and yet uh, there's something about Gideon that she's just endlessly charming and relatable. And it's just something about her essence and energy that makes you kind of care about her and want to go along with her. And I felt like she wasn't exactly the character type as written down in a casting breakdown, but I thought that's why I loved her, and that's why I thought she did such a great job, because she took a character who on the page is a sort of a party girl and kind of a jerk, and
Mhm.
she made you, I think, feel like you knew this person, and
Mhm.
so I think Gideon deserves a ton of credit for, if people are enjoying this movie, it's because they care about the characters.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on what you're saying, I agree with everything you just said. When as a viewer of the film, a fan, and I want to mention Beth as well. Beth
Yeah,
Million.
Beth
Um,
Million,
Beth
fantastic.
Million. Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed. I mean, because I thought she was brilliant, and what a great choice you made in her as well for that character. And what was it about Beth when in the audition process where you knew you had that feeling like I know this is the one?
We read so many people for that, and people with a ton of experience and a lot of credits to their name. And Beth had no credits. She was like
Hmm.
in school, studying,
Yeah.
and but her audition was, the thing that immediately grabbed us in our audition is that she didn't overplay it. She played it so low key and so comfortable and relaxed. She was incredibly relaxed in just the tape that she sent us, which takes a lot of confidence to put something out there like that, because
Yeah.
usually as an actor you really want to show your stuff and you want to like overperform to make sure they notice you, and she just
Hmm.
seemed so completely comfortable in her skin. um, so that was just the first read, and then we did chemistry reads where Gideon would read with a number of different women who were auditioning, and
Ah.
the two of them just hit it off completely. And it was just, you got the feeling watching them audition that they seemed like they had been friends,
Hmm.
and that translated to when we were shooting, when we all showed up, we were out there in Utah, and that's kind of just how they were together, and yeah, I mean, the truth is that Beth is just kind of an incredibly talented human.
Hmm.
um, and sometimes, you know, the trick is to make it look really effortless, and that's what she does. So she's
Yeah.
able to make it seem really effortless, but there's a lot of craft in what she's doing, even though she had next to no experience actually on a movie. But she
Wow.
she just knew where to go and knew where to be. And sometimes some people you need to really walk them through a performance, and some people just you tell them one thing and they know what to do. And she's just
Yeah.
she's just a cool customer. I love her. She was a fantastic to have around, and her enthusiasm for being on her first movie was really like a beautiful energy to have around, because it was
Yeah.
very infectious how
Mhm.
excited she was about it all. So it's definitely not, it's
Awesome.
really absolutely not just Gideon. It's about the two of them, because
Mhm.
that's the cool thing about the movie, as Kevin wrote it, is it's really about a friendship, right? It's about
Yes.
these two friends that have to
Mhm.
save each other. And
Yep.
and when you're reading the script or when you're watching the movie, it's a horror movie. There's only two of them, and will be a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. So
That's
if you
okay.
want to cover your ears, but it's like when the thing that I loved about it was that when I was reading it, I kept thinking, which one of these two women, which one of them is going to die? Because one of them's going to die.
Mhm.
There's going to be a final girl. So,
Mhm.
and I remember feeling like I don't want either of them to die. And it is essentially a twist on Kevin's part and
Mhm.
Catherine, the writers, that neither of them die, and that they both kind of come together to save the day, and they're standing. And I loved that. I thought, oh,
Yes.
that's so cool. It's just about two friends like defeating the monsters.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because when especially with the horror genre, and what we always like to call tropes, just like certain expectations, right? You're gonna
Right.
in a horror movie, and someone's gonna fall down, and there's certain it just has to be in there, but
Sure.
yeah, who's gonna survive? That's a very great point, John. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh man, if I have to pick one, I'm gonna probably go with Parker, but you never know. But yeah, I was so happy to see that it was different. It was cool.
Yeah. And I think that idea was playing into those expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's the tension that's kind of pulling it along. And then that's kind
Yes.
of the release and the catharsis at the end is like, oh, but they both make it, and they're both standing at the end. And now,
Yes.
and as dark and crazy and violent as it all is, you kind of come out with this good feeling.
That's right. Yes. Now I have to ask you just to kind of go to more about the aesthetic of the movie, and you touched on it earlier. I loved how you talked about because I see the same approach you did in Alone, which we're gonna. Time is going so fast, man. Um, we're gonna get to Alone here in a second, um, but I think both of those movies have that in common. Is you have these horrific things happening in Sick and in Alone, and but you have these beautiful surroundings. You have these situations that are so difficult, and you're just feeling for these people, but um but what I love is the location, like this house in Utah. How did you guys scout this beautiful location that you filmed for the house? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the house was the finding that house was the important thing. And we read originally we're going to be shooting around Park City or something like that, and looking at all these places. We looked at a number of places, and we couldn't really find exactly what we were looking for.
Okay.
Um, there's not a ton of, like in Park City, there's not like a ton of lakes or anything. There's small bodies of water. Um, and then we ended up going to like out in Eden, Utah, which is a little bit, it's outside of Ogden. We found this house, which was just kind of like this, like it was like a log cabin on steroids. You know, it was just like
Yes.
mansion log cabin, which was, I think, important, um, important to Kevin and important to the story, that it had to be this kind of overt display of wealth for the
Mhm.
Parker character, that it's like she's,
Mhm.
because there is kind of that aspect to the story of this kind of class warfare
That's true.
element to it.
Yep.
So that the house needed to represent like this,
Mhm.
again, like this almost bold display
Yes.
of wealth in the middle of nowhere. And
Yep.
on top of all that, you know, more importantly, it also had to be a place where, you know, you're going to stage a lot of cat and mouse
Mhm.
suspense scenes happening in here. So we kind of needed a house that had hallways and stairwells and a
Mhm.
number of different rooms and alcoves, and then the surrounding areas. So all of those elements kind of, you know, were contributed to it. And you wanted something that at night, with the lights on, you could kind of look at this place, and it, you know, you could always kind of go back to that image of this
Mhm.
house. That, and what was interesting about this one is like a largely, it's a log cabin, but huge windows. So
Mhm.
that almost, you know, exacerbates the vulnerability of the characters, that everyone can see them from outside. And, you know, that's,
Yes.
again, it's playing into these tropes and expectations of the audience. They know where this thing is going to go. And
Mhm.
instead of pretending like we don't know where it's going to go, we're going to lean into that, and we're going
Yeah.
to try to just squeeze more attention out of it. So again, somehow this house with all these windows making you more
Mhm.
exposed and more
Yes.
vulnerable, and so many ways to get in and so many places to hide inside and outside. It just felt like,
Mhm.
okay, there's, you know, already once you arrive in the house, you know it's going to be trouble.
Yes. Yes. It's great. I remember when they first get to the house, when they show them driving up, and I was like, "Wow!" And I'm like, we just look at the, I'm like, "That is gorgeous!" Like, what a
Right.
nice place. And this was the like vacation home, right? And how it was set up in the script. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like her dad's, you know, spot that he would go with his hunting buddies
Yeah.
or
It's
something
hunting
like that.
buddies. There you
Yeah.
go. Jeez. I'm like, whoa. That was so. I'm gonna say you absolutely nailed the location. I thought was just gorgeous, and yeah, it was perfect. And I want to ask you, speaking of which, how was your shooting schedule? How many days did you guys shoot the film?
I I think I think we shot for 22 days.
That's impressive, John. That's not a ton of time, my friend. That's
No, it's not a
really
lot. And
not.
I'll tell you what made it harder is that we, and maybe this is just stupidity, but we shot it in Utah in the summer, so at night. So the nights are like 8 hours long in June
Oh
in
gosh.
Utah. So I mean, you know, we would just, you know, you'd have your lunch break and get back to shooting, and you look out those windows and you could see the black sky turning blue, and you're like, oh man. So we were just racing every day.
Ooh,
Yeah.
man. And a lot of it was at night. And how many was it one of those things where it's like 7 days a week? Like we got to go pedal to the metal at night. I mean, because 22 days, you got a lot of work to do. That's
20
yeah,
22 days. We did 5-day work weeks, but they were, I would say, of those 22 days,
yeah,
probably 18 or 19 of them were nights,
yeah,
all night.
yeah.
So it was,
Wow.
that was certainly the longest just like continuous nights that I had done. And
Hmm.
that's always, you know, it's never it's never easy or ideal, but you know what you're getting into when you're doing one of these. It was, you know,
Yeah.
I liked, it was again, like being out in the beautiful surroundings. But it was funny, you know, you're out there in Utah, we'd show up at work and the sun would go down. You'd just be waiting for it to get dark, and it would take forever to get dark. You know, you just had
Right.
these precious few hours which kind of played into, it wasn't the style of the movie wasn't like lots of coverage. It was very, minimal coverage. It was really like, again, like a lot of long takes and things like that. So rather than shooting millions of different angles, we would kind of spend a lot of time rehearsing and choreographing and then shooting it that way. And that was probably just based on because that's how I'd been doing Black Summer. So we were used to that style of filmmaking, of these kind of long takes.
Yes. Wow, that's awesome. And I have to say, everyone I'm sure was not used to, typically working over all night long, and to keep maintaining that energy level, and especially with, the cast on camera. That's a lot, and well, really everybody involved. Really, if you think about it, the energy level has to be there. You have to be in it. You have to be focused, intense, and you could, as far as watching the movie, it looks like one night. It looks like one night, man.
Well, that's good. That's good. That then everyone did their job well. And like I say, we had some, we had some really good people there. And as we were talking about Eliza, that was there was just a lot of stunts when you're working on these tight schedules and things like that. There's some really dangerous stunts we're doing. So you want to make sure that they have their time to do them right, and they have all the, the resources and everything they need. Like when we did the high fall, for instance, fall when Beth's character falls off the roof.
Yes.
And that's always, just a little bit tense to do those things. You got to make sure you're done right. But her crew, they were just amazing. Then we had the, a full burn that we did at the end, which, Eliza might have told you that was literally her daughter who was,
that's right.
who's on fire.
Yes.
And, and then doing water stuff, and you got water safety people and everything. So it's like doing these complicated things that actually are very slow moving when you're doing them in order to do them right. But we also got to be moving at a certain pace. So that's just the challenge of these kinds of movies, as anyone who makes them, will tell you. It's making sure you have enough time to do the things right, but also making sure you're getting what you need to get. It's a delicate balance sometimes.
I can only imagine. My goodness. And real quick, we're about to get over to Alone, because I have to get some Alone, some Alone discussion with you. But just a couple of quick last things here on Sick for tonight, at least, because I do want to be respectful of your time, of course, and I really appreciate it. But that burn sequence, I was going to talk to you about that. That it blew my mind. Number one, when she said that was her daughter Whitney that was doing the actual burn as a stunt performer. But something I mentioned to her, and I want to mention to you also, is as that scene was happening there, and that the character who's on fire, but we know it's actually Whitney Coleman. But as that's happening, I was like watching it, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, she's going to fall over. It's been 5 seconds. She's got to fall over soon. And John, the scene keeps going onto the street. And I'm like, wait, hold on. This is still, I think, oh, this has to be manipulated. So I asked Eliza, I said, Eliza, was that all? Did that really happen that long? And she said, yes. And I've never seen a burn scene, John, personally, that long. It was incredible.
I appreciate that. And that was why, I know that when we were editing, there was some, discussion, some people were suggesting, oh, maybe we should cut to these other angles. And I thought, no, the point of this is how long that people feel that you're not cutting the camera. And this just goes on. And that was the question was, I asked Eliza and Whitney, like, how far can she go? I want to follow her running on fire
Mhm.
and then she falls down, and we just want one shot to show that, because, like you said, you're just going to be aware of this fact of how long this is going on for.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she apparently she was able to go, pretty far. We would have done it as far as she was comfortable doing, and that was
Mhm.
what she was able to do. Um,
Incredible.
yeah, and then she went down and laid there,
Yes.
and then when that camera cuts, it's like these guys come running in with the
Ooh.
fire extinguishers and everything.
Yes. Oh,
But,
man. How did you feel, as she kept going? Were you what was your adrenaline pumping? Were you nervous? Were you like,
yeah, I'm always, the truth is, even though everything I do tends to have a degree of action or a lot of action, and some of
Mhm.
it's real dangerous, and um, I don't actually enjoy those moments. I actually am
Mhm.
just feeling, I'm just concerned for the safety of the
Sure.
performer in those moments, and I'm hoping we just get it and nothing goes wrong. So when we
Yes.
get it and then we get the thumbs up that she's all right, then you have a very
Ooh.
elated feeling.
Yes.
But at the time, it's no, I feel actually quite nervous for her,
Mhm.
in
Yes.
that case. And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't actually enjoy those moments, even though I seem to put myself through them all the time. Yeah.
Well, then you got her mom on set, which that doesn't make it any easier. Her mom's there. You're like, "Oh, no."
Well, I mean, her mom, quite frankly, made me more
Uh-huh.
comfortable because they're so
Oh,
cool about it. They're so
true.
relaxed,
True.
that it actually helps relax you. Yeah, because yeah, Eliza is a very cool customer.
For
Yeah.
sure. Oh, yeah, I could tell big time. Now, this next question I would like to ask is it overall, this would apply to Alone and Sick, um, because they both of these movies have such a similar tension and tone, and to me, and I would like to know, as you read these scripts and as you bring them to life, as I mentioned earlier, do you feel like you have, or what could you share, I should say, maybe a philosophy or a process, or what is your idea, your theory to create tension, um, that we ultimately feel when we watch it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because I think that's what I'm always after. That's kind of the fun of, like I say, I'll go back to talking about Alien. You just,
Hmm.
there's something about experiencing tension in this safe environment of watching a movie when you know it's not real, but for the
Hmm.
moment you've been convinced and you've been invested in the reality of this situation. That's, to me, that's very exhilarating as an audience. So, how do you create that? Well, I guess there are a number of different ways, and every movie is kind of has its own rules. Every
Okay.
movie has its own set of rules that hopefully you you're aware of these rules, and some of them you come up with yourself, and some of them kind of emerge while you're making it. But eventually, at a certain point, you're kind of like, reacting to what the movie is becoming, and
Hmm.
you're whatever the aesthetic world is. So in the case of Alone and Sick, I would say I was certainly kind of, um, chasing after some kind of minimalism, in the sense of, uh, creating the tension in not cutting, and
Hmm.
what we don't show you, and that there is a real power in not, in how long you hold a shot, or at least in not creating a predictable rhythm that the audience
Mm.
can then know, okay, this is where the cut's coming, or this is where the music's coming, just
Hmm.
so to almost like embrace the simplicity, uh, of, and taking simple things and doing simple things better,
Wow.
was kind of the goal, rather than
Mhm.
trying to be extremely high concept and complicated. It was like, let's be very low concept and very simple, but still there's so much more excitement and tension to be mined out of these very simple stories. A woman being pursued by a man that he may be, first is she's questioning whether or not he's really a threat. And we're going to
Mhm.
spend the whole first act exploring the tension of, is this person a threat? Is this not a threat? And that's a kind of very relatable feeling. And then the movie and Matthias Olsson's script, which went kind of from, became then at that point, as with Alone, I always said it was like Duel meets Deliverance. It was like
Mhm.
woman versus man, woman versus nature, all in one movie. And again, and it was just these two characters. It was so simple, with a third character that shows up for a moment.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so I think that's, if there's anything in common with those two movies, it was just the kind of minimalism and
Mhm.
simplicity of them, and how much to be mined out of that.
Oh, and it was well, it was a mind brilliantly, let me just tell you. It was, fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
and of course, there's a lot more we could talk about with Sick, but for the sake of time, we'll leave Sick there. For Alone, just real quick, if we could ask, if I could ask you just a couple of questions here, and then we'll start to wrap up, because again, I utmost respect your time. I don't want to over push your stay, or your obligations. So,
Appreciate it.
um, absolutely. So, guys, I want to tell you, if you've not seen Alone, you should move this up to number one on your watch list to watch. This film is powerful, it's intense, and it is engaging, and it's a thrill ride. It was, and John, I just want to tell you, I believe you did a masterful job, not only directing this, but editing, because you also did editing on this film too, correct? And that
Yes.
is, I mean, you really, and I was going to ask you about that. Uh, as editing and directing it, and also editing it, how did that help you establish the pace, the tone that you were looking for? Because it's wonderful.
I mean, quite simply, I used to, I mean, when I came into it, I came in always through documentaries. I was always editing, I was always editing the movies. And that was something that I did on all my early films. I edited as well as
Hmm.
directed them. Um, but I also knew that at some point, that to be a great director, you actually have to you have to relinquish certain controls, and you have to work with collaborators, because they can always bring something to the table. You
Hmm.
can always get what you want, but you also should allow for other people in that process. So when I did Alone, I wasn't quite at that point yet, but eventually I was. And when I started, I mean, I've been working with my editor Andrew Drazik now for a long time, and we were co-editors at a certain point. And then then Black Summer was the first time where I'm like, I'm handing it over to you. I'm not going to put my hands on the keys on this one at all, because I think
Hmm.
that's something I need to do, is not
Okay.
is achieve what I want without doing that, and which is great. And now I always felt like it was shortest distance between 2 points if I did it myself. But now I
Hmm.
work with an editor who's better than I was, and so that's easy.
There
Um,
you go.
but for a while, yeah, it was just I connected directing with actually constructing it in the editing room, so they felt like one and the same to me. So Alone was another case of that. And I worked with Scott Rune. He did a lot of editorial work on that, and he did a wonderful job. But it was a movie that I needed to find in the editing room, I think in the sense of what we're talking about, that it's less about cutting a piece of action together or anything like that. I mean, that's
Okay.
part of it, but it was really about maintaining the creating the pace and of the movie. And that movie I felt had to live in this kind of a little bit of a slowed down
Hmm.
methodical pace, which is
Yes.
challenging because when you're doing that just in the editing room before you have the sound design and the music and everything, you're not sure. I mean, quite frankly, you're always saying, and we did this with Sick too, like, is this boring or is this
Hmm.
suspenseful?
Hmm.
And I'm not sure which. And sometimes you think it's going to be suspenseful, but the everyone you've shown it to a bunch of times, the producers, executives, they know what's coming, so maybe they're not scared, so they're like, I don't know, maybe this might be dragging a little bit, you never know.
Mm.
So there's always this push and pull of,
Hmm.
is this tense or is this boring? And Alone kind of lived in that place for a long time until I think the producer Jonathan Rosenthal and I spent a lot of time in the cutting room on that, really kind of calibrating it. And I don't know that we were really sure what we had until Sam Nakach did his sound design and Nima
Mm.
did his music. And once all
Hmm.
those elements came together, suddenly scenes that seemed boring to people before were now like, oh, this is really suspenseful. So
Yes, it
so
is.
so that but you don't always know. But that was the trick of editing that one, was like, how long could we elongate these moments?
Wow. Well, I thought it was brilliantly done. Pacing was wonderful. It was never boring. I was never bored. That's this
Good.
man, this thing once it gets going and then as things begin to happen, whoa. And it also speaks real quickly to your casting choices again. I mean, Mark and Jules were wonderful
Fantastic.
in this in their roles. And of course we see Mark and Sick as
Yeah.
well
Well,
later on, but
I joke with Mark that I think I need to I'm going to offer him a role in everything I do, and it's up to him to say yes or no.
love
But
it.
it's kind of like the good luck charm at this point. But I just love what he brings to the table, and that, yeah, look, the whole movie is really the two of them. So
It is.
if we didn't
Yes.
cast it right, then it fails. So if
Right.
you like it, it's because you like what they did. And
Yes.
you know,
Oh,
I
so
think
good.
Jules is incredible. I had worked with her on just directing an episode of TV, and
Okay.
it was just one day we spent together, and she left an impression. And I thought, what she did on that one day of just a random police procedural TV show,
Mm-hmm.
um, I thought, wow, that was what she did today was masterful. And
Yeah.
I have to find something to do with her one
Oh,
day.
that's awesome.
And
Wow.
then Matthias's script had come along, and I was working on it. And when this started to come together, I thought, I think she's the person who's got to be in this role, because I know she can do
Yeah.
it. I know she has
Mm-hmm.
the toughness and the strength,
Mm-hmm.
and the strength of character to do it, but also just straight up the acting chops. I mean, she's just an incredible actor.
Yes. Oh, yes. And the emotion, so many emotional scenes, and it's so real. It's not, sometimes some actors it feels a little forced. Hers
Yeah,
were not. They were wonderful choices. So, um,
yeah,
yeah, it was great. And listen, there's a lot more guys. Let me just tell you, we're going to leave it there. There's a lot more to be asked, and maybe I can twist John's arm into a part two at some point. He's a very busy guy, but maybe
sure, sure.
we
No,
could
I'd be
possibly
happy to some other time.
wonderful.
I gotta
Good.
put my kids to bed right now, so I'll
Absolutely, John.
otherwise I'd
No,
stay longer.
I respect that 100%. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here tonight. This was a real pleasure for all of us here in the audience and myself. And I just want to say once again, you did an amazing job on these films. And I can't wait to see what you've got coming up next. I'm
Well,
very excited.
awesome. Well, thank you, Stephen, and I really appreciate everything you're saying, and
You
thanks
bet.
for it was fun chatting with you, and yeah,
Yes.
happy to do it some other time, anytime, and yeah, I also look forward to you seeing what's next, because there's some cool things that we got
Ooh,
going.
can't wait. Maybe we can meet up as it gets closer, and when it's there's a little more freedom to talk, we could do that. It'd be great.
For sure.
All right, John, I know you need to run. Thank you again so much, and it was a real pleasure. Seriously, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You take
Thank you,
care.
John. See you next time. Good night.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, John Hyams, ladies and gentlemen, that was a great time. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I sure did. And if listen, if you guys have not seen Sick or Alone, oh man, you gotta see them. You gotta see both of those movies. They're absolutely fantastic. Uh, can't recommend them, but can't recommend them higher, especially just seeing, Alone was just, I don't know, that one somehow got off my radar. And when I watched it, I was like thinking to myself, wow, this movie is intense, guys. Luna says, where is it streaming? I believe it was Amazon's where I watched it. I'm pretty sure it's on Prime. Uh, definitely check Prime. Thank you, Kenny. Kenny says, great stream. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, Sarah. Way to go. Awesome. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. That was really great. Um, and we started just a little bit late, and so John kind of had to take off, but it was still a very good time. Russell says that was amazing. Oh, thank you, Russell. Thank you, man. Jason says, I'm going to watch the movie in here in a little bit alone. Yeah, Jason, fire that puppy up, man. Telling you, it it's really good. It's really good. Jason says, thanks, Stephen, for another interview. Incredibly. Thank you, Jason. You're very welcome. Oh, that's right, Russell. A Hulu. That's where I saw it. It was on Hulu. Yes. If you have a Hulu subscription, you can watch it there without commercials. And that's where I saw it. Yep. Thank you, Russell. Good job. Good job, my man. All right. That was awesome. And Sarah says we made it to 55 likes. Good job, guys. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well done. Thank you, Denisha. I appreciate that encouragement. It was really insightful. So, I mean, again, I just love this information and the insight we get to someone like John, who's a director directing the film. You get that insight into his thinking. And then when you watch the movie, you remember these things and it all kind of connects. So just wonderful. And it did, Sarah. I'm telling you. I was looking at the clock and I'm like, we can't be 45, 50 minutes in, and I hadn't even started to talk about Alone. I was like, oh no. But you know what? It does go by quickly. My gosh. I felt sure we'd have plenty of time to cover both of those movies in an hour. But it's how it goes. But that's okay. Like I said, that's why you can do part twos, right? Come back a second time. Um, but anyhow, guys. Well, listen, y'all, I appreciate it. I hope thanks you all for the encouragement. If you're watching this on the replay mode, hope you enjoy it as well. But this was a lot of fun. And real quick, guys, since it's just us here at the end before we officially say goodnight, um, want to acknowledge my Cravenites, my patrons, and also give you a preview of coming events because I just booked someone and you guys are going to be excited. So don't leave the stream just yet. You're going to miss it because I have added it to my coming soon events. So check this out, guys. Here's what's coming up in the next few weeks. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Oh! There it is, guys. Halloween 4 director, Dwight Little, baby. I hated to break over that awesome music, but did you see it, guys? Dwight H. Little just confirmed today for October the 30th, the day before Halloween. I will be interviewing the director of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, also director of Natty Knox. But we're going to be spending a lot of talk about Halloween 4, and I cannot wait. Russell says, when is the Knife movie? So the Knife movie actually comes out, Russell, in theaters on November the 10th, and it's called It's a Wonderful Knife. It's a Christmas slasher. Christmas slasher, guys. We're going to get a slasher Christmas movie. And it's written by Michael Kennedy, who co-wrote Freaky with Christopher Landon. And he wrote this film and produced it. He'll be here on Monday, the 6th of November. And the movie hits theaters on the 10th, that Friday. It's going to be fantastic. And I'll let you guys in on another thing that's a possibility. Michael and I have been communicating, and it's very possible. It's not a guarantee yet, but it's possible that Michael will be getting me access to an early screening of The Knife Before Christmas. Could be coming up anytime now, where I can actually watch the movie and then write my review, have my review video ready to go, and then we'll post it at the proper time when the embargo is up. So keep your fingers crossed, guys. I might be getting an early screening of Michael Kennedy's movie, It's a Wonderful Knife, starring Justin Long. You guys have got to check out the trailer. If you've not yet seen the trailer, you've got to check it out, guys. Go to Google, YouTube, put in The Knife Before Christmas trailer, and check it out. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that, man. I'm so excited to talk to Dwight Little about Halloween 4, guys. You have, man, and it's happening the night before Halloween. Thank you, Sarah. There's the link right there. You guys, listen, this is one I want us to get this to 50 to 75 likes. We've got over 2 weeks, well, about 2 weeks to get this done. And I know we can come together here as Craven Nation and make that happen. So if you would please, I just set that interview up today. It's on the channel. Sarah posted the link. If you guys would not mind going there and smashing that thumbs up button, let's get it started and see how many we can get. 50 as the floor, and I'd love to see it even higher. It'd be wonderful. I know we can do it. You guys are awesome. But yes, it's going to be awesome. Thank you, Luna. It is. I'm very excited. And it's just going to be great. And Sarah, also, thank you. Don't forget, guys, on Wednesday, we're just 2 days away from Halloween Fest 2 coming back. And we're going to be watching Halloween 2018. Oh, yes. I'm so excited. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, there's the link. Go check it out. Smash the thumbs up button. And we're Knight and I are going to be rolling out a brand new super limited collectible for Halloween Fest 2 starting on Wednesday. Brand new, never been offered before. So you don't want to miss this one. We've been working on it and it's going to be awesome. Trust me, you're going to love it. I love it. So I think you'll love it too. Very cool. Hey, Kyle says, awesome interview. Thank you, Kyle. Much appreciated. Let's see. Russell says that should be December. Well, but seriously, dude, we celebrate. We celebrate, holidays, all out of sync. I personally love it because if you go out in theaters in November 10th, by Christmas it'll be able to stream and possibly, probably not have a DVD out yet, but then you'll be able to stream at home for Christmas. So I think it'll work out great. All right. So it's going to be fantastic. So yeah, guys, Dwight Little, Halloween 4 discussion with director of Halloween 4 on October the 30th, Monday night. And I couldn't think of a better thing to do the night before Halloween than talk to a director of Halloween film. So it worked out. It's a done deal. So, all right. Guys, listen, thank you, Sarah, Denisha. Thank you for your super chats tonight. It's a big help to the channel. I much appreciated. And for everyone, you guys were awesome. I appreciate you all being here and hope you had a great time. I'll be streaming again on Wednesday night for Halloween Fest. I don't have anything planned for tomorrow, but you never know. You just never know. All I can say is make sure you smash the bell icon so that you do have the notifications turned on. And now it doesn't always mean you're going to get them. That's how YouTube does things. But seriously, guys, double check. And there it is. And listen, I'm not one. I don't put a ton of stock or whatever adjective you want to use into fresh or Rotten Tomatoes. But I will tell you this movie right here alone, John Hyams alone edited and directed this movie. It has a score on Rotten Tomatoes of, I believe it is 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, guys. And I have to say, after watching this film, it is worthy of that score. I mean that. So just keep that in mind, guys. If you haven't seen it, I just have to tell you one more time. You need to watch this movie. I've even considered a watch party here on the channel for Alone. Just doing a watch party and let's all watch it together. I still may do that. We'll see. But if that's the case, then maybe it'll be your second time to watch it. But definitely check it out. All right. Luna, I know it's frustrating. You're not the only one. I promise you. It just does not always notify everyone of videos that I put out or live streams when they start. Don't know why. It's a YouTube thing. But hang in there. Just keep on hanging in there. All right. Well, guys, listen, I appreciate you all. Thank you for staying up late tonight and hearing from an amazing guest, John Hyams. Don't forget to follow him on Twitter. I know Sarah posted the links earlier. Make sure you follow him, and we can that would be a cool thing. And when he's got some projects in pre-production, post-production, they've shut down right now, obviously with the strike, but there's good things coming, and so stay tuned for that. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to call it a night myself, and you guys get some good rest tonight. If sleeping is what's next for you, if work is up next for you, whatever it might be, I hope you have a good rest of your night. Much love to all of you. You know how much I appreciate you. And oh, you know what? Hey, before you go, don't leave just yet because I wanted to do this and I want to show you guys. I made I just wanted to give special recognition for all of my Gold Skull channel members. That means you've been a channel member here for 12 months or longer. You have the much coveted Golden Skull by your name. So, guys, real quick, I want to say a special thank you to all of these individuals you're about to see right here for being a 12-month, a Gold Skull Cravenite. I'm going to show you guys this, and I'll come back and we'll say goodnight. Here we go, you guys. All of you 12-month plus members, that is incredible. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And you guys are amazing. And I love all of you, no matter if you've been a Cravenite or for a month or a day, a patron or just a subscriber here that's checking things out. I love you guys all, but my golden Cravenites, you guys deserve your own special recognition because that is an amazing thing. 12 plus months of faithful support. So thank you very much for that, guys. If your name is on there, thank you, thank you. It's much appreciated. And Sarah's name is on there. You guys saw it. Sarah says, "Oh, I love that." Good, Sarah. I wanted to do something special to celebrate all of you with a gold skull because that is incredible. So I'm going to continue to show that on live streams, and we'll add hopefully add to it as time continues to go. And Lady Luna says 5 more months for me. So excited, literally counting them down. That's so cool, Lady Luna. That's awesome. That means a lot to me. Thank you that you're excited for that golden skull. And then Luna, your name will be there. You'll be right there amongst all the others, and you will have made the gold team, the gold Cravenite team. Appreciate that, guys. And so for all of you, thank you all so much. I do hope you had a great time. I sure did. Sarah, thank you for modding the chat tonight. I really appreciate it. I know it's getting late for you here on a work night, especially. So I appreciate you hanging in there for the modding tonight. And for everyone else, I can look forward to seeing you all on Halloween Fest Wednesday night. Just 48 hours, less than 48 hours away. And until then, have a wonderful night and a wonderful Tuesday. And I will see you all, hopefully, Wednesday night. Much love, guys. See you soon. Good night.
Hey, you have been watching Craven Something Scary. This is Lee Waddell, the original Ghostface, thanking you for stopping by and checking it out.